Hello everyone, this is Nguyen with BlueFirePoker.com. Today I'll be doing a live commentary vid. Happy is way cooler than sad, so that's why we did that. This is at 100 NL6 max, and I'll be focusing more on developing reads and how to exploit players while we're one-tabling here. Early in the match, Boomba has been opening a bunch. 8-9 is a hand we can't quite properly call with, so I think it's a decent spot to 3-bet bluff from the button. It puts a lot of pressure on him. We're gonna want to develop a aggressive image since we do have direct position on him, and kind of get this aggressive dynamic later. So when we have legitimate hands, he's gonna be paying us off a lot more. Uh, so I think it's a decent spot to 3-bet in that spot. 4-7 is definitely gonna be a fold. We know things about two players here. RLAU is like a total fish. Before the video started, I saw him. I saw him call pre-flop with 9-3, and then check call pretty quickly with bottom pair, and then min raise the turn with bottom pair, and then shut down on the river. So he's gonna merge a little bit in some spots, and we won't make too many like hero calls against him because he's gonna have a lot of weird bottom pairs in spots we wouldn't expect, and we are gonna try to play as many pots as possible with him because he presumably is the worst player at the table and makes a lot of mistakes post flop. So we're gonna try to keep pots small and play a lot of pots with him because that's where a lot of our advantage will be at this particular table. The second player that we know something about is Avery in the top right there. He is someone that limps quite a bit. So far, he's playing 40-12, so he's pretty loose and passive. He posted before his big blind, another sign of a fish. So these two particular players are the players we're gonna try to target. Ace King, obviously standard raise from under the gun. Hopefully, we get to play a pot with one of the two bad players. And we get 3-bet by a loose passive player that posted. 4-betting here is fine. Yeah, 4-betting is fine. Calling is fine. Our hand is pretty strong, and folding's out of the question. He shoves. We're obviously gonna snap and win a flip. Oh, I'm so good at predicting things. So yeah, in that particular spot, I think we can call. We have position, um, some percentage of the time, and we can definitely 4-bet and obviously get it in. We're never 4-bet folding a hand. We 4-bet for value. We're probably never 4-bet bluffing there actually against that particular player. So he's not going to know that. So anytime we do 4-bet that player, I think we're going to be 4-bet and calling. And as we suspected, he's going to be fishy. After he lost the flip, he's open shoving for 40 big blinds. So this table is particularly good. Even for a 100 table, there are a lot of fish, but there are two really, really bad ones at this table. Try to find these tables too and sit down. A lot of your profits will come from them. I guess I see occasionally. I mean, when I first started out, I kind of just sat at all the tables with 5 out of 6. I'm kind of confused now because Avery open shoved that last hand. A little weird. But anyway, yeah, I used to sit down at all the tables 5 and 6 and would find myself with other non-game selectors playing at the table with 6 regs. So don't do that. Try to find tables like these and join a wait list or sit. Huh. I really wish Avery won there because I hope he doesn't sit out and leave now. Yep. That's unfortunate. But Boomba's play is fine there with top pair, obviously. Getting it against that player who is what we assume tilted. We get min re-raise. I think this is a call every time it's this player. He puts a ton of money in post flop. We get to keep the pot sort of small. Um, I think we're just gonna check here. He does a lot of min raising like on the flop and turn. I don't think we get that many folds here. If he checks twice, I think it's a good spot to bet because I think he has air a lot. But once he bets, I think we just give up. We're not going to make too many moves. I think it's a decent spot there to kind of raise against people with more normal ranges. But given that this player, we've seen him limp. I guess we haven't. It was before the video, but he limped King 7 and then called 30 BB shove. So he's going to put a lot of money in weird spots, quite a bit. So we flop a flush draw here. I really don't expect too many folds here, but we kind of want to build the pot because I think we get to stack him a lot of the time when we do hit our flush. So we pick up a gutter as well. Definitely going to barrel off and hope to get a fold. We're going to overbet here, which is kind of cool play. And he snap calls and we get there, which is kind of awesome. But if he has a hand like a jack or 3 and we expected him to call most of the time on the turn because the ace really won't deter him, an overbet probably will. It's going to signal a lot of strength to him. At that point, his like bottom pair no longer is looking as attractive because we expect him to snap call to any normal size bet. So overbetting there in that particular spot where we expect him to call a lot of the time, I think is a good spot because it really, really increases our fold equity. So now the table's not as good, but with that player, we're never leaving. We may have to make it like a 7-hour video if he doesn't leave and we don't stack him. The other players seem not that great, but not awful. N1 just limped the button. We're going to assume he's not that great. Boomba is playing pretty aggressive, pretty loose. We have position on him, which is hugely important. If he was on our direct left and he was going to be playing a lot of pots, we'd have to play a lot or out of position a lot. We might get 3-bet pretty frequently. So him being on our right is actually a really good thing in this table. Okay, so the fish pot the river, so we know he's going to be capable of bluffing with no pair. So far, I've seen him. So far, I've seen him kind of like bet bottom pair there a lot of times, but now we know he's going to have complete air in his range as well. I've been kind of tightening up from the small blind in blind battles against certain players. Uh, but I'll always like rob these like loose. He's playing 11-0 so far, so I'm probably opening up 100% if it folds around to me in that particular spot. So Boomba here isolates. It's a decent spot to 3-bet some of the time, and a decent spot to. I mean, usually we're going to be folding, but if we see him get out of line isolating the fish, his range is going to be really, really wide, and he'll be folding to most of our 3-bets. So if we see him continually do that, we will make an adjustment and start three betting and squeezing from that spot. Not squeezing, but three betting from that spot. Again, the fish snap calls a flop. He can have a four here. He can have a five here. He can have a deuce, a tray for gut shots, 7-8 for gut shot, any draw. His range is really, really weak. If Boom is paying attention at all, which he may or may not, he shouldn't be barreling off against this player. He's gonna be called. I would definitely value bet thin, and just like any ace X, I would bet three times because I expect to get called. But if he was pure bluffing there, it's certainly going to be a losing play. That's also another important note. So far we've seen him fold. We've seen him call quickly twice, and we've seen him in the past call with like bottom pair a ton, and that type of hand. So he's going to be calling the flop and turn with any pair and any draw, and then once he has to put all of his chips in, he's going to be folding most of the time. So if we do want to bluff, as we will try here, we're going to be shoving the river and unfortunately fold. Looks like he's on his case money. He's not. He's not rebuying. So the table may get kind of bad, but not awful because we have position on the one loose player and we're deep, and the players to our left minus the fish are pretty tight. So our position at the table is actually pretty decent. So we get three bet by the fish with 34 big blinds effective. It's pretty close. I think we can call. I think we can fold. If we call, we'll basically be able to stack him every time we flop a pair. Folding here is fine too. We have a speculative hand out of position with 35 big blinds. I'm kind of okay with either decision. I think I lean towards folding most of the time, but in this particular case, I'm going to call and then shove the flop. Obviously, like I think we got a lot of folds here. We made the note that he doesn't like calling all in. We have two overs and we have two overs and a gutter anyway. Only one of our gutters was good. I think our play was okay. Like it was close between calling and folding. Pre-flop, I think the flop is going to be a pretty standard shove. So we'll definitely try to keep track of the players that are isolating him because clearly he's bad enough that we're not the only one that recognizes. So there are going to be a lot of like I guess mediocre robotic type players that play I don't know other training styles, and if we can recognize them and target them, we'll be able to make money. So we don't only want to target fish; we kind of want to exploit the regs that have unbalanced ranges because they're isolating fish. So far now we've seen Ivan isolate once, Boomba isolate once. If they continually do so, we'll put a three bet in with an airy hand because he just won't be able to continue very often. So Boomba made a pretty good value bet there, I think. Considering how often RFAU had been folding the river so far. I mean, he probably wouldn't call with like a one pair hand there, but I think a majority of the time he's going to be calling with one pair hands when he bets 5 into 15. So I think Boomba made a pretty good small value bet in that spot. So he shoves. He probably usually has a boat there. This is the first time we've seen him overbet. We've seen him pot it a couple times with bluffs, I guess, bottom pair once. Maybe that was a value bet to him, or and king six with no pair and no draw. So the first time he overbets, I'm willing to give him a lot more credit on that particular board where he can reasonably have the nuts. I'm not that happy anymore. Like we just lost that big pot, so. Oh, by the way, the coolest Russian kid makes these avatars. Read my blog. He'll make it for you. Pretty cheap, in my opinion, for how good it is. He made this table too, so very talented. Check it out if you want a cool custom avatar. And we just run super bad with queens against a player that plays 75% of his hands. Jack five suited here. We've seen Ivan like isolate once. He's gonna. We don't have that many hands on him, but he's probably gonna be opening the button pretty wide. I imagine he snap folds. Playing fewer tables does allow us to kind of recognize the game conditions and see how they change, see how people are reacting to things. Occasionally, I'm on too many tables myself, and I totally just don't recognize these sorts of adjustments, how people are adjusting. So, um, if you want to improve, definitely play fewer tables so you can recognize these situations. We just three bet him here, 6-4 suited. I think I'd call with normally anyway. I'd much rather three bet a hand like 6-3 suited. In addition, we don't want to let RFU fold there out of position. We want to play pots with him, so we don't want to just like pick up these smallish pots or play and force Ivan to play with us. We want to let RFU there. So I'd flat, I think, um, a lot of the time. This is probably a fold. RFU doesn't give up very easily. He calls down with bottom pair. I don't think there's too much fold equity in this spot. And obviously I'm wrong. Again. 'Cause we stack him, but so it goes. But yeah, like I was saying, from the button and cutoff, when RFU is still in the blind, I think flatting with hands like jacks, queens, tens, maybe even ace king occasionally, ace queen, like a strong range is going to be preferable because RFU will call a ton of the time, and we get to play pots with him in position with a strong range in which he puts just way too much money in with any pair, any draw, and sometimes no pair, no draw. We don't want to shut him out pre-flop for sure. Checks the river again, and I'm really curious as to what he's checking the river with. So far, we've seen him just lead so often on the river, and he bets, or he folds pretty quickly. So that bet size again, I think he's calling with any pair. So it's very likely he just had complete air in that spot. We get three bet by this player. I think this is a call almost every time. Wait for good flops and um, play accordingly. We don't need to just like monkey it in here against this particular player because he's going to play pretty poorly post flop. So we want him making more decisions. So he pots. Tough decision. I mean, he definitely has queens in his range. King, queen, ace, queen. He could still have kings. He could still have aces. Two queens. This is a tough decision for sure. Um, since he does barrel off, if I do call the flop, I'm definitely calling most turn shoves. I guess I would probably fold on an ace. Um, so now we can definitely call. Our hand actually improves. So if he does have a queen or two kings with no diamond, we can sometimes spike 20%. And he checks behind, which is really interesting. Um, he doesn't like to call all ins, so I think he has ace king here a lot or ace jack a lot. Oh, two jacks. So I don't think there's like any value in a shove there on the river. I think he actually played the hand fine. When we call the flop there, he assumes we have a queen most of the time, and he just shuts down, which I think he played that hand fine. So we have another new player at the table, live only twice. We don't know anything about him. He bought in full, waited till his big blind to play, so we'll assume he's at least semi-competent. So RFAU times out. Okay, cool. I thought he was leaving, but he's staying. So I think it makes for a decent video in how to really exploit fish. I'd be kind of sad if he left. Timing out again. Not sure what's going on. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties. So we missed one hand, nothing important, and the fish sits back in and posts. So cool. I think it's going to be semi-important as well to kind of learn from the Blue Fire videos in how to adjust and not play a system necessarily. A lot of people develop like okay systems, and let me talk with this hand real quick. Okay, so what was the action on this hand? Okay, so he isolates 550, calls. He bets. RV calls with bottom or pocket threes. Check check, check check on the river. Okay, so Ivan, if he was paying any attention at all, should just straight three barrel top pair against RFU. Clearly, we've seen him call with like a really wide range. So in that particular case, where you may be worried about like a tighter range where they may have two pair flushes, etc., etc. RFAU has gut shots, bottom pair, middle pair. So he just missed out on an additional probably 25 big blinds by not betting three times in that spot. We're going to increase the size here, and that's not really to get him to fold more preflop because we still expect him to fold, but because we expect a lot of value whenever we have a value hand. And he's going to be calling flop and turn, and probably folding river a ton. We'll be able to get a lot more value by building the pot. So making it an additional big blind preflop really. So let's say we make it 4x. There's going to be 8.5x on the flop. We can make it 7, and then there's going to be 22. We can make it like 19. So we get a lot more of our stacks in just by making it one additional big blind preflop. But yeah, like I was saying, a lot of people develop like a system where they can play, I don't know, 14, 15 tables, whatever else. But that's not going to work when you get to, I guess, like 510. So if you really want to improve, you need to be able to exploit each table and the game conditions at each table and maximize and really figure out how to beat particular players rather than kind of beat a lot of mediocre players across 15 tables and never really think. Huh. It's a very interesting hand. Oh, straight flush works. It's pretty standard spot, I think. Flop to king high flush versus the straight flush, the money is usually going to get in. So it's a definitely a decent spot for us because we typically want the fish to double up and stay. If he's on his case money and he leaves, the table gets way worse. So root against the regs, root for the fish, in my opinion. Yeah, when we're facing a 3-bet with a speculative hand, we opened under the gun, so we're definitely going to be folding here. He's playing 9-6 after 36 hands, so if he's aware of positions at all, he knows our range is going to be a lot tighter from that spot, and he really, really shouldn't be 3-betting us too light there, and I don't think he is when he's playing, I don't know, 10% of his hands so far, so he probably had ace king plus, queens, jacks plus. Sounds about right. Uh, Definitely going to fire one. Probably give up after this. I don't think he's floating too often. When we 3-bet, this hits our range decently. I think he's folding most pairs here. The only hands that continue that we're ahead of, I guess, are like Jack Queen, Queen 10, that type of thing, and flush draws. So fire one, give up. We don't want to check fold because when we check on that board, I guess our hand looks a lot like what it is, like a pair of nines, pair of tens, maybe a pair of queens or something like that. Um, and he's going to be able to just like bet, and we can't continue on that board. So it's not like the best reason, but I really like betting there just so we don't have to check fold. So we're definitely opening every button because we want to play every pot in position against RFU. So if it seems excessive and RV, PIP, and PFR are so far, I mean, we're definitely playing way loose. We're targeting the fish, so we want to play as many hands, no matter how speculative they are, against him. This is going to be important too, learning how to exploit one fish and really exploit him as you get to the higher levels. Because I guess at like 3-6, 5-10, there's just going to be usually 5 regs, one fish. So, and the fish won't be this bad. Well, sometimes they will be. Um, but learning how to exploit like one fish and really learn how to exploit him is going to be a very useful tool. Something you guys should definitely think about and learn. So we flop no pair, no draw. We're out of position to the guy that never folds. So if it checks, we're gonna check. Once he leads, we're definitely folding. So we'll play one more full orbit. So I guess 6 more hands. Hopefully get into a cool spot. And afterwards, I guess there was a tournament today for the WSOP, but I'm 0 for 7 now, or 0 for 6 or something, and very discouraged. I don't think I'm going to make $1 million like I planned to. I thought it was like 50-50, so I might lose this flip after all. That was a decent spot to 3-bet Ivan, I think, given that he, for the most part, has isolated the fish a ton. I think he kind of plays the system. He's playing 14-14, just isolates fish. Probably learned that from one of the other training sites. And, when someone limps, he says, okay, I'm always going to isolate from late position. Against those type players that aren't going to readjust to me and figure out that I'm going to be exploiting them by 3-betting a wide range there, I think 3-betting there once or twice a session will show a profit. So we flop second pair, and we are going to bet, and probably bet a lot of turns for value. He's going to call with any 5, pocket 3s, pocket 2s, any pair under 10, basically. That's a really good card for us now, because now we're rarely behind. In any gut shot, so we're definitely going to bet twice here. And expect him to call a lot of the time. On the river, since he's been check calling, check folding, if he calls a turn, I think I like a bet like 1/3 size, because I think he calls there most of the time, whereas he's been folding to a lot of river bets previously. So we'll kind of adjust our range there, and kind of bet big with our worst hand, since he's been folding more often to those, and bet smaller with the hands we want him to call with, because he's more likely to call in that spot. And it's something we definitely don't want to. It's bad from like a game theory perspective, but this guy may not be thinking on any level, and we'll just make these adjustments to our ranges to make sure we make the best vacuum plays against him. He's been timing down a lot. There's a possibility he may be playing on more than one table. If I were like grinding today, or whatever, I would definitely try to join all his tables. Since the video, I was planning on making a one tabling video, so probably not going to do that. And I just looked him up, and of course he's only on one table. These types of players usually don't multi-table. He's, I don't know, thinking about his bottom pair call downs and reviewing his play probably. So this will wrap up the video. Leave comments. Let me know if you guys like the live commentary better than the ones where I do the commentary after and pause. So this is Nguyen with BlueFirePoker signing off. Have a good one.